Welcome, fans, to episode 93 of Rangers Ed, a long-awaited episode for many of our fans and for us. This is your host, Cousin Ed. I'm here with my co-host, Coach Ed. What's up, Coach?
What's up, fellas? Big 4-game episode.
And our producer, Mikey's over there. There's white wall, but he's got some pictures up now. What's up, Mikey?
It's not that white, so we're getting there little by little. What's going on?
And we also got little Ed up there in the top right. What's up, buddy?
How we doing, fellas? I decided to shift my laptop from one side of my desk to the other so we get a better view of my Ranger room. So head on over to YouTube to check that out.
Much more organized than mine.
1994 wall over my shoulder over here and my Winter Classic wall over my other shoulder. And hopefully we'll be able to feature some stuff soon on the memorabilia corner.
Yeah, we gotta get that going for sure.
Should I show everybody my bobblehead?
Yeah, show them.
So my birthday gift from Cousin Ed finally came, and it's a Panarin. I don't know, what is this called? A big head bobblehead.
The big head.
It's huge. The thing is like the size of my head, and he's got a nice little haircut going. Every time I walk into my office, I crack up looking at this thing. So shout out to Cousin Ed. Thank you for the birthday gift.
Yeah, man.
And now I got to find a spot for this thing.
Might have to build a new shelf.
Yeah. So
that is a big head for sure.
It's hilarious. It's so funny. But yeah, before we move forward, I want to give a shout out to this week's fan of the week, Brian Elfont and the boys over at Ladder 151 on Queens Boulevard. Few of them, especially Brian, they play on the FDNY hockey team. And a little teaser, we're going to have him on for an interview later on this year. So shout out to Brian. He's been a longtime referee for me and Coach Ed. We've had some battles on the ice, I'm sure. So we're looking forward to some stories from Brian later on. And yeah, shout out to all the boys at Ladder 151. Thank you for protecting us.
Yeah, that's a shout out definitely and well deserved. I'm looking forward to that interview for sure. All right, so let's go right into it. Let's get into the jersey numbers, sponsored by Oscar's Pro Stitch Hockey.
Our buddy Oscar, a huge Rangers fan himself, started his company by stitching his own blue shirts. Once he perfected his craft and started to fall in love with his work, the man started to grow. Oscar stitches every jersey with love and dedication to authenticity, which never disappoints. His talent is hard to find in any store out there. Are you like Cousin Ed? You have a lingering jersey curse that every player he gets a jersey of gets traded or injured and hurts the Rangers team? You want to change things up? You want to take an Eric Lindros jersey and make it a vintage Ken Hodge jersey in the late 70s? Got an old jersey collecting dust in your closet? Want to throw your name on the back and add a nice number of one of your favorite players? You can bring it back to life with a brand new kit at Oscar's Pro Stitch. So head on over to Oscar's Instagram at Oscars PSH, that's OSCARS PSH, to check out the countless tarps he's already done and to place the order for his next one that possibly can post on Instagram and get ready to wear it to the next Ranger game or any event that you have coming up. Tell them the boys from Rangers Ed sent you and receive a special discount at Oscar's Pro Stitch Hockey. Go get them, Rangers.
Shout out to Oscar for sure, and Coach Ed for the ad read again. So
you got to good chance to use Oscar if you have that Sammy Blade jersey you want to change over.
Nobody's got a Sammy Blade jersey, that's for sure. So the current Ranger wearing number 93, obviously, is Miko Zibanejad. I don't do it as good as Joe Tolleson. However, Zibanejad, he's been, just a revelation with the Rangers. You know, they got him when he was 23 years old. He's now 29 years old in his 29-year-old season, at least. So he's been here 7 years, 192 career goals with the Rangers in 457 games, 419 points, 6 straight 20-goal seasons. Would have been 6 straight 25-goal seasons if not for COVID. He had 24 during that shortened season. And if you remember, they got Zibanejad in 2016. It's already been 2016 since that trade. for Derek Brassard and a 7th-round pick for Zibanejad and a 2nd-round pick. So that was one of the better moves the Rangers have made, and he's going to be here a long time. So just shout out to Mika. Hell of a career so far as a Ranger, and if he can win a cup at some point, continues on this path, his jersey might be retired one day. Anything on Mika, boys, before I do the former?
I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about him enough in this episode coming up. So, yeah, everyone on this episode, I think, loves Mika, and he continues to shine on and be one of our leaders.
Little spoiler alert, I'm waiting for a package from Oscar with Mika's number on it, so hopefully that comes through soon.
Listen, you can't that's the jersey I want to get. You just stole my jersey.
You're not allowed to get it.
I'm going to reach out to Oscar and do a side deal. I don't need this crap. Anyway, so there's been 2 former Rangers to wear 93. Peter Nedved, pretty good Ranger. 1999 to 2004 wore 93, and Keith Yandel, 2015 and 16 wore it as well. Hey, do you remember Nedved, Hlavich, and Dvorak? What was that? What did they call that line?
I'm not sure about that one.
They had a name, but it was like the Czech something. I don't remember.
Something like that. Not the Fly line. That was Fleury, Lindros, and York. I'm trying to think of. It was. Oh man, I don't know. Maybe
they just put the 3 checks together and it worked out. But
yeah, I remember Nedved. He like dressed exactly like Jágr. Like he had like the same curve, everything. I feel like he was just like a little Jágr out there. Not little. He's about the same size, I guess. I remember him being very tall, but not obviously not nearly as good as Jágr. But I remember they had the same style out there.
Yeah. So funny thing before we move on Nedved. Nedved was acquired by the Rangers after they won the Cup that summer, literally like days later, July 24th, for Esa Tikkanen and Doug Lidster. He was then traded a year later to Pittsburgh with Zubov for Luc Robitaille and Ulf Samuelsson. And then they got him back from Pittsburgh for Kovalev. They traded Kovalev to Pittsburgh and got Nedved back in 98. So a lot of transactions involving Nedved and the Rangers in this short period. I just think that's interesting. And he had a quick stint and then a longer stint later on. Anyway, nerd alert. So prior to the last episode, the Rangers were 28, 14, and 8. They were 3-0-0 in these 3 games. We covered the Calgary game last episode. 31, 14, and 8, 70 points, 3rd in the Metro, 7th in the NHL. We talked in our emergency episode a little bit about Vladimir Tarasenko and Nico Mikkola getting acquired from St. Louis for Sammy Blais, Hunter Skinner, a 2023 first-round pick, and a 2024 4th-round pick. So, boys, we jump right into this. We could talk about the Calgary game because, again, Coach, I hope you remembered that game is part of our Stars of the Week, so I hope you included it. But Vladimir Tarasenko jumps right in.
I did definitely include it, but not in the way you're thinking.
Vladimir Tarasenko jumps right in his first game, 2 minutes, 49 seconds in, and scores his first goal as a New York Ranger. So it took Tarasenko, Coach, 2 minutes and 49 seconds to score, and Sammy Blais had 0 goals in 50-some-odd games.
Yeah, well, he got his first with St. Louis, I think, in the 2nd game?
Yeah, on breakaway. That's crazy. Anyway, what's your impressions on Tarasenko now that, you gave your impressions on the trade, but what about his play in these 2 games that we've seen him?
I mean, obviously getting that goal in the first game was a key situation. I just think his presence alone, obviously, has woken up Panarin. We'll see how far that goes. Even when he didn't play on his line, he didn't play on the line to get with him in Carolina, right? They changed it up a little bit, and he still was up. Panarin was still shining, obviously.
Yeah, they moved Tarasenko off Panarin's line against the Hurricanes, and they put Panarin back with Trocheck and Vesey. And that line just killed it, obviously.
I think that was more of a punishment to Panarin.
And then he scored 4 goals.
Yeah. They woke him up a little bit because he was going back to his usual self, trying to get Tarasenko the puck with his cross ice passes. So I think Gallant was like, just get him off the line. And they shut him up real quick by scoring the 4 goals, I guess, right?
Yeah, so while we're talking about Tarasenko, let's bring on our guest. So we got a special guest today from the Mind Your Pucking Business podcast, Jeff Krentzman. Let's bring Jeff on and get a little Tarasenko talk going on here.
There he is.
There he is.
Bud?
I am good. I'm good. How are you guys? Good to be with you guys.
Yeah, man. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back. Oh, we were
I
just talking.
I have to give you guys, before we even start, I have to give you credit on the Tarasenko thing. It happened last week, and I was off social media for a little bit, and then I go on, and there's the emergency episode. Like the way that you guys do that stuff on the fly is amazing. Like it was awesome, and it was a great take that you guys had too. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. You know, it's hard, but you got to do what you got to do. You know. So we had to hop on the mic real quick and readjust our schedules. It was a big deal. What were your thoughts?
We feel like every time we record something, I feel like the next day something big happens with the Rangers, and then like we have to wait a week to talk about it. So something big like this, we felt obligated to try and get something out there as fast as possible.
Yeah, well, great work to you guys. Kudos on that.
Yeah. So Jeff, what are your thoughts on the Tarasenko trade?
I like it a lot. I mean, I think people can't think that they're getting a player that he was 10 years ago because he's not that guy anymore. But I think he fits. He fits what they need. I was more concerned about what they would give up to get anyone than maybe even more than what they were going to bring back. And in this case, they didn't really give up much at all. Obviously, Sammy Blais is not really going to be a loss. I would challenge you guys with the question to post your favorite Sammy Blais goal in the Ranger uniform as your favorite memory. I don't think, the Hunter Skinner pick, I mean, he's not Brendan Hoffman. I think, we can certainly give him up. And the track record with this organization with draft picks is awful. So I'm done with holding on to draft picks thinking that they're going to turn into something. So I think all things included, as long as you're not thinking you're getting Tarasenko from 2012, I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the only asset they gave up, right, that worries you is that first round pick, and it's probably going to be the last 10 picks of the first round, maybe even like the last 4 if either Dallas or the Rangers get to the conference finals. Both of those teams are top teams in their conference, so I tend to agree. Why not strengthen the roster now? You didn't really give much up. So I mean, after the trade, what kind of holes do you see on the roster right now that you think may be addressed by Drury before the deadline?
Well, I think if anything, really, it's some more fourth-line depth. I mean, the name that's been thrown around is Tyler Mott. We know he was good here last year. He fit that role in Gallant's system. It's a little frustrating in the sense that I wanted them to re-sign him specifically in the offseason, and now to go out and get him, you got to give something up. But I think a player like Tyler Mott, I mean, I don't really see them doing a lot. I don't think they're going to bring in another first or second-line guy, another top-4 defenseman. I think it's just some depth on the back end, maybe in the fourth line. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'll let Little Ed take that.
No, I can't agree with you more. I love Tyler Mott. I was ashamed that they didn't sign him in the offseason. Like you said, now they got to give somebody up. But I said this on episode 92 that I believe the same thing, that Drury's not done. I think he's definitely going to go after that fourth line depth because I don't think that fourth line is exactly where it needs to be come playoff time.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, so my thing is a fourth line center I would like more than a winger. I think that the way the roster's set up right now, they got Lecision at the fourth line center. He needs to be a healthy scratch. And they need a more veteran presence there, a guy, I always think back, all Rangers fans go back to 94, right? But like a Craig McTavish, right? Like that, they need a guy like that they could trust, win a draw, defensive, penalty kill. Maybe someone like, and I don't even know, I haven't watched him enough recently, but like a Nick Bukestad or what's his name? Noah Chari on St. Louis. Otherwise, they're going to be stuck putting Barclay Goodrow in that spot. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, if they go with Goodrow at fourth line center, I can see them adding like a Mott on the wing and being happy with that combination as well. So we'll see. I agree. I think that it's going to be depth pieces. So, I mean, looking at, like you said, it wasn't Brennan Othman that was included. I mean, what kind of assets do you think Drury would even make available for anything else that they're going to do? I mean, there's rumors they're going to trade Kravtsov, so obviously he's on the table. Other than Kravtsov on the table, I mean, what else do you think they're willing to do? Are they going to move a defense prospect or draft picks only? What do you think?
Well, I mean, the Kravtsov situation, and I don't even want to ask Coach Ed because I know his feeling on Kravtsov. I remember the preseason special I was on with him. Yeah, I mean, they don't really have that much they can move. Kravtsov obviously is probably going to be moved. I would be fine with them moving Zach Jones. I've never been a Zach Jones guy. I think he's too small for the NHL. I don't really know that he's a big NHL defenseman. But other than that, you're not going to now turn around and give up an asset for someone who's playing on the roster that's doing well as you're about to make a cup run. So I think if you kind of factor that in with the fact that you really don't need to add a lot, you don't have a lot of assets, you're probably going to give something up minor to get, fourth line guy. I don't really think there's a lot they're going to give up.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think we're looking at mid-round picks, and they're probably going to hold mostly everything else. So just get your thoughts on Kravtsov. So he, there's a lot going on with this. The coach isn't playing him. He's saying he's not producing enough, and the chatter is that Kravtsov, through his agent, went to Drury and said, "Listen, if you're not going to play me, like, give me a better opportunity somewhere else." And Drury put him out in that email chat that the GMs have and said, "Anyone interested in Kravtsov, give me a call," or whatever. Realistically, what kind of return are the Rangers even looking at if they move him?
Well, first off on him, we had our episode yesterday, and I got hate for my Kravtsov take, and it didn't even come out yet. I mean, so I don't know if it was people watching live yesterday or what. Like, the clips haven't even come out yet. So overall, I mean, here's a guy, he's played in 48 career games, and he has 10 points, right? So Coach Ed looks like a genius because, the stats that he has is not really dictating someone who should be 22 years old or whatever he is demanding a trade. I mean, you haven't really proven yourself to be doing that. But my thoughts on him getting moved, I think at this point you have to. If it's true that he requested a trade again yesterday, that's the second time. Like, I don't know how you dress that player in your uniform again. The guys in the locker room know that. I don't think it's a good fit. And I mean, at this point, he's not going to develop under Gerard Gallant. And if I had to sit here and say, do I want my coach, who had us within 2 games of the Stanley Cup Finals, has been on a 20-4 run the last 2 months, or do I want Vitaly Kravtsov and his 10 points in 48 games? I'm taking the coach. Kravtsov's the odd man out there. So I think you have to move him. I don't think the return is going to be that high. But I also think the longer you hold on to him, the return's going to go down. So to me, I think it's got to be something that's done in the next 2 weeks before the trade deadline.
It's an interesting point about how it affects the locker room that he asked for a trade. I mean, I don't know the full circumstances of it. He hasn't thrown a temper tantrum or stopped working hard or anything like that. But, if he's going quietly to his agent and, saying pretty much like, look, this guy's not going to play me, get me somewhere else. On the one hand, I can understand that, I mean, in our own lives, we do that, right? If I'm working for a place and I feel underappreciated or I'm not getting enough opportunity, I would go seek out other opportunities, just like anyone else. So on the one hand, I can understand that, but you're trying to win the Stanley Cup. You need the whole team on the same page. And, even if he's a black ace, that's a little bit concerning. My initial instinct was trade him in the summer if you don't get what you want here, but you make a good point, how it affects the locker room. I mean, I don't know, Little Ed, what do you think on that? How it affects the locker room that he may have asked for a trade?
Well, I'm big on the intangibles. So I think that's a huge thing. It's hard to say, though, because it seems like he's having a lot of fun at practice, all the clips, social media clips you see and everything. So he's obviously never had like a bad look on his face or anything like that. So, I mean, you got to look at it like maybe the players kind of understand at the same time where he does want to go somewhere else. But that's also if they think that he even has the ability to play somewhere else. They might just think he has a lot of work to do also. So I think it's a very good point. And for him to have that attitude, whereas like, why does he could be like that, like you said, the black ace, where as soon as somebody gets hurt, knock on wood, he's most likely going to be entered into the lineup, but that's not good enough for him. And that attitude right there, I don't think is great to have. I'm sure Coach would agree, right, Coach?
I mean, without a doubt. I mean, but his outlook might be he's looking at Laffy came in, he got a position right away. You know, Kako got one right away. He was the #1 pick, correct?
No, 9th overall.
Yeah.
Right, so he probably feels that little bit of entitlement. I don't know his attitude of his agent. Again, I always go back to the thing: if I'm a player or I'm a player's father, I'm sitting down with the agent going, "This is our plan." So for the agent to say something without dealing with the player, I'd be a little shocked. So I have to think that's his attitude too, if that's true. And I don't like it. I personally don't like it. I would bet almost anything that Gallant doesn't like it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear, right, Jeff, that Gallant doesn't like Kravtsov.
Yeah, no, it is. And I was just about to say, during our episode yesterday, someone was writing in our live chat arguing on Kravtsov's defense about Niels Lundqvist, right? That he now has gone to Dallas and he's playing, top D minutes. And that, it's Gallant's fault that he gave up on him. But again, like, in this case, where's he going to play right now? This team is right there. It's about to make a push in 2 months. Where are you really going to play Kravtsov right now?
Yeah, you're right.
I
agree
with
I sent that clip to you guys saying that Gallant said he's a top 6 forward and there's just no spot for him on this team. So, just like with Lundqvist, where were you going to put him?
Yep.
Who are you going to sit? Who are you going to sit to put him in the top 4 on D? He wasn't.
Yeah, I don't think anybody had a problem with Lundqvist. It was just a matter of opportunity, time, and place. You can't put him with Schneider. I don't think
I mean, to me, he wasn't playing better than Schneider. So how would you move him up and not Schneider? So, it's that same situation where there's just not a spot for him.
The thing with Kravtsov, the little wrinkle, because I would agree, looking at the team right now, the only spot he could possibly fit is third line right wing. And it's just, he's being outplayed significantly by Jimmy Vesey for that spot. So it's you're not going to put Vesey on the 4th line to force Kravtsov into the lineup. But when you look ahead and you look at next year, the Rangers are going to be in a cap crunch and they're going to need cheap depth on the wings to start the year, just like they did this year. It may not be the team they end up with next year at the end, but they're going to need somebody to play for $1 million or $900K or something like that. And Kravtsov is going to get a contract like that next year. So my only thinking is, I would just tell him, like, dude, just focus on getting stronger. And if there's an injury, you might draw in, hit the gym. Here's our plan for you. Work out. And then try again next year, because I'm not going to just give him away. That's my concern. Like, you don't just give away a player with his kind of talent. When it's clear that he needs a little work. And look, he's at fault. I agree. He's at fault for his delay in development too. It's not just the team. It's both parties. But yeah, I think this, regardless of what I think ultimately, Jeff, you're right, that this is going to be the end here. I don't see Drury not moving Kravtsov at this point. I mean, I think he's gone by the deadline. It's just a matter of what they get back.
And it's frustrating in the sense that in May of 2019, when he came here, he not only was drafted 9th overall, like you said, but a lot of people were rating him at the time as the top prospect outside of North America. So when you hear that, you get excited, like, wow, we got to steal at number 9. And clearly we didn't get the player that we thought.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, it remains to be seen what kind of player he'll be. He's got all the talent in the world, but he might not just have what coach would call the mental fortitude, the drive to succeed. It's a little concerning that it's been 5 years since he's been drafted, and we're talking about him getting stronger, right? Like we talked about it with Buchnevich, but that was when he was 20, right? Like, oh, Buchnevich needs to get stronger. We talked about it with Kako, but he hit the gym. He's 21. He's stronger already. So, he's 23. By the time he gets his strength, he's 25. You're outside of a prospect zone now, right? Now you're in like you're fully grown, like at that point. So we'll see what happens.
Not a kid anymore, Joe.
Yeah. So off Kravtsov, off the negative stuff. I mean, do you think looking ahead, this team is pretty much set up with a matchup with the Devils?
I don't want to say it's locked in, but it's certainly looking like it's possible. I don't, if that series happens, all the pressure on the world is on the Rangers, right? Devils weren't even supposed to be there. So the speed game, EJ Raddick was on with us a couple weeks ago and talked exactly, what if they played in the first round? And he said, look, the Devils' speed gives the Rangers fits, as you've seen in the 3 games that they played. Obviously, with the Devils' concern, Hughes week to week, how long is he out? And Vanacek in goal has been really good, but I mean, I don't know that you would bet the mortgage right now he's going to play a full season and do well in the playoffs. He just hasn't really had the chance to. So it would be exciting. I mean, to be around a Ranger Devils series in the tri-state area would be awesome. It's great for hockey, but I don't know that it's a matchup I want. And all the pressure in that series is on the Rangers.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the Rangers have the pressure. As far as the matchup, I think we have to see what the teams look like, when we get closer. But I tend to agree the Devils are, earlier in the year when we played them, they're relentless on the puck. So the Rangers are going to need to get their legs going that series to beat them. Even though they may have the veterans and the experience now, the Devils are a relentless team. So it's not necessarily a matchup I'm looking forward to either, because forget the chances of winning it. I just don't want to have even remotely lose to the Devils. It's like, oh, everyone wants a Rangers Islanders playoff series. Like, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I do not want a Rangers Islanders playoff series. No. I want the Islanders far out of the playoffs and just focus on playing like Toronto or something. I don't know. Little Ed, what about you? You want to match up with New Jersey?
I mean, now that you put it that way, not really, because I wouldn't even be able to stand them seeing us winning a single game. So, never mind the series. It's tough. It's real tough. But I'm sticking to my guns. I don't think Jack Hughes is going to be a threat in the playoffs when guys are gunning for him.
Yeah, the Devils' concern, I think, is their lack of physicality. I think Tom Fitzgerald and the GM over there, that's going to be one thing they're looking at the deadline, because I think Little Ed's right. I mean, Jack Hughes is going to get killed unless they get someone like a Ryan Reeves, a Mike Rupp comes to mind in the past, someone like that on that team. They need to get more physical.
Yeah, they need someone to protect him, or at least be like a guardian, like you said, like Revo was.
Yeah.
You think they're going to go get Timo Meyer or no?
I think it's possible. From what I've heard, I mean, what's been out there, it sounds like they've been trying really hard to. He would fit there in the sense that he's a young player, and it's a team that's maybe not built to win this year. So I think he's a good fit in New Jersey. I just think you need to make sure you have a contract extension signed ahead of time. Obviously, if you're going to make a move like that. But if I'm the Devils and I have a chance to get a player like that with where I am right now and my trajectory as a franchise, I think he's a great fit for the Devils.
Coach, sorry I interrupted you. What were you saying about Hughes?
You're right. I mean, I agree on the Timo Meyer thing. That I've watched highlights of him, and that guy, he's a power forward for sure. He'd be that physical forward I think they need to match with their speed. I just think the Devils, I said it when we had the Devils podcast on, and I just think they're not strong on the back end defensively. I think there's too much of that running gun, and if the Rangers play them and they don't give the puck away cross ice like they did in those couple of games, I think they're a takeable team. I don't think they're a playoff-ready team like Eddie said.
Yeah, I would say this to what Coach Ed just said. And I'm not afraid of the Devils. Whoever you play in the playoffs is good, right? It's not like we would ever sit here and be like, oh, I want to play this team in the first round, because you're asking for a kiss of death when you just say that. I mean, I think the Rangers could certainly get past the Devils, but I just would get worried that the pressure on that series is literally, with those two teams, is all on the Rangers.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I think it's a good pressure. I think the Rangers excel or do well when they aren't like the favorites, or aren't like we just saw it with the game against Carolina. They had every right to lose that game after a tough week, playing every other night, and they came out and they took care of business. I think they always show up for games like that, so I think they can handle that pressure.
Yeah, so Jeff, the last thing I want to bring up is Artemi Panarin. We talked in our emergency episode about Tarasenko being friends with Panarin, getting him going. So, Panarin connects with him right away. Next game, Gallant, Little Ed said as a punishment to Panarin, demotes him to the Trocheck VC line, and he scores 4 goals against the team leading our division. So I just kind of want your take on Panarin in 2 aspects. One, do you think he's going to put him back with Tarasenko at some point? I mean, I'm sure he will briefly because he just changes the lines constantly. But And then 2, do you think that this 4-goal game is maybe a good sign? Forget his stats, but Carolina, a playoff team that maybe this year in the playoffs, Panarin can, excel compared to last year. Because if we have this Artemi Panarin that in that game in the playoffs, I think the Rangers are a much more dangerous team. You're not just going off depth, right? You're going off superstar. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the first question, I think he will be back with Tarasenko at some point. I think he's smart enough to know these two people have known each other forever. That's a good familiarity. It's only going to help each other. So I think they'll be back at some point. Overall, with Panarin, hopefully it gets him going a little bit more with putting the puck in the net. But he's having a great year points-wise. I think he's been a little bit lackadaisical in the defensive end. He certainly made some pretty bad defensive plays this year. However, I kind of give him a pass when I look at his stats and I see how many assists he has. But hopefully it gets him going. And you're right. If you could get that sort of Artemi Panarin in the playoffs, that is a massive, massive boost to your chances. He was hurt last year. I don't know if it ever really came out, but it certainly appeared in the playoffs he was hurt. And a lot of people forget about that because all they remember is the Game 7 overtime winner versus Pittsburgh, right? Oh, Artemi Panarin. But if you watch the rest of the playoffs, he wasn't that great. I do think he was battling some kind of injury. So hopefully, we get the Panarin we saw on Saturday night in Carolina in the spring, and that would be advantageous.
Yeah, didn't he have that injury towards the end of the year? Or was that the year before? He had some kind of like a hamstring injury.
I thought it was like a shoulder.
The week where he had the Tom Wilson. Yeah, he had one last year, and then he also had one the year before. The last week of the season was the whole Tom Wilson debacle when he got slammed to the ice.
Well, I think he had a hip injury at one point as well. That's why he stopped doing the kick celebration.
So like it.
Yeah, I remember that. But yeah, so look, we covered the Calgary game a little bit, but I can't end the interview without at least getting your take on that Jacob Trouba hit on Nazem Kadri.
Well, it's hard to get on it when Kadri came out and give the guy credit, right? He got clock clean like that and comes right out and says it was a clean hit. I got to get up and move on. So, it's weird with Trouba that this is kind of becoming his mantra here in New York is to be the guy that's hitting the opposing player with the head down and all that stuff and firing the team up. I don't mind it. I think it's good. Obviously we know what happened with the whole helmet throwing episode and where they've been since then in December. But I thought the hit was clean. I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I agree. We all agree with that. All right, Jeff. Well, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate your time. Always a great interview. And you can find Jeff's podcast on social media at Mind Your Pucking Business. And you're on live on YouTube, right?
We're live on YouTube on Tuesday mornings, and then we come out on Spotify and iTunes during the week. But the Instagram page as a whole, the last month and a half with the DMs and the questions with the Rangers every day, all day. So people can send us there. But thank you guys for having me. I stream you guys in my car. I have the notification set up on my phone. I don't know what it's called. I'm not very tech savvy, but I have a thing that it comes across when you guys drop a new episode, which usually is like the second half of the week. And I usually
Thursday mornings.
I was going to say, so it'll be tomorrow, which is good because I'll be in the car, not to put pressure on you guys to get it out. But I plug you guys into my Apple CarPlay and my Volvo, and I listen to you guys. I usually have you guys the whole episode done by Friday into the weekend. I love the stuff. Like I know I've told you this. Your banter back and forth is great. You guys are totally insightful. We agree on almost everything, which is funny. We don't really agree, any of you guys. But your stuff is awesome, so keep it up. I feel like you guys are a great voice for Ranger fans, so keep up the good work.
Really appreciate it, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, I tune into your show sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I always agree with you guys, and I like that even when you guys do some debating, like you guys get into the hardcore debating, you keep it civil and you're always respectful of the other person's opinion, which makes it a good listen, right? Like I have left some episodes of yours. There was one a couple of weeks ago I remember listening to when I was stuck in traffic actually on the turnpike, where you guys were debating I forgot what it was, and like I just remember thinking like this is really civil and nice to watch. It reminded me of PTI and ESPN, right? When they're going at it, but it's like you kind of understand the other person's argument. And I love it with you guys because it's always Ranger based, right? I don't need to listen to LeBron James stuff. So keep up the great work. I'll be tuning in as we get closer to playoff series. You guys are awesome with your content, so keep it up.
Yeah, right back at you, Jeff. Sometimes when I'm sitting here working from home, I throw you on YouTube and try and comment and banter with you guys a little bit. I know I've asked a few questions for you on there.
Okay.
And, yeah, I listen to your audio later on sometimes as well. So keep up the good work. And your Instagram is popping too. You're throwing up a lot of clips on there. And
yeah, that's all the production people. That's not me. I give them credit on that. And I got to give Coach Ed credit because the last time I was on with you guys and I was pumping up Kravtsov, Coach Ed was the one guy who said, no. And here we are in my next appearance with him getting shipped out of town. So Coach Ed read that one like a book.
All right, I got one. I got one right.
We'll take it. In my eyes, you're batting 1,000. So take it. Thank you guys. Have a good rest of your night. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for the
Thanks, Jeff.
for coming out.
Be safe.
All right, that was Jeff Krentzman with Mind Your Pucking Business. So you can check him out at Mind Your Pucking Business on social media and check him out on YouTube with those live shows Tuesday mornings. I love their studio setup and everything that they got going on there. It's a real pleasant experience being a guest on their show. And they got some really good takes. They also talk a little football. They talk about some spreads and things like that. So if you're a football fan, they talk about that as well.
He had EJ Radic on the other, I think 2 weeks ago, and last week he had our buddy Neil Villapiano, the Devil State of Mind podcast on. So nice. I gotta take credit for that one. I'm sure they found each other through us, right? So shout out to that. I love building the community, and we have a lot of fun with Jeff, and it's nice to hear his appreciation for all of our hard work. So
networking.
Yeah, definitely.
Networking.
Nice, Coach.
Coach, you're supposed to subtly do it, not just come out and say networking. All right, back to hockey. So Alexis Lafreniere got a lot of crap from Rangers fans. We on this podcast, I think, united for once. We're united in saying patience. We talked about his struggles. We tried to analyze it, but we all pretty much came to the conclusion you got to be patient with this kid. It's there. It's coming. Well, now he's got a 4-game point streak, 3 goals, 5 assists in his last 8, including a GWG in overtime versus the Flames. Not only that, in my opinion, and I don't know about you guys, forget the points, the passes he's making, just a completely different player, and his confidence is back. So I don't know whether to give Gallant credit or I don't know who gets the credit. Maybe Laffy deserves the credit. But I look across, Coach, his line every game. What's going on with him? Shots on goal, hits, blocks, giveaways, takeaways. Crooked numbers across. Crooked numbers, right? Since the last podcast, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points, +2, game-winning goal, 8 shots on goal, 11 hits, 3 blocks, 2 giveaways against 3 takeaways. He's doing everything out there. So you guys got to – we got to relish in this a little bit, that it looks like he's figuring things out. It looks like it. Let's see if he can continue. Coach, your thoughts on Laffy?
I mean, I preach patience all the time. Never put him in the doghouse because I like the way he was hustling. I love his attitude for the last 3 years, and never gave up. I'm sure he worked his ass off in practice, and that's why Gallant stuck with him. And, these 4 games have been great, but we, again, like anybody else, we got to see the consistency. The kid line is clicking. Let's see what happens over the next few weeks. They're going to need him.
Yeah, Little Ed, your boy Laffy. Give him some love.
I love the way he's playing. I think I mentioned this on Alex Garrett's Sports Spotlight last week. It was a great play that he had in the overtime against Calgary. I think it really showed his confidence with the puck. And a big thing that you mentioned a few episodes ago, saying that it's better for him playing with his peers where he doesn't have the pressure to constantly look up for Zibanejad or look up for Panarin or feel obligated to get the veterans the puck. Playing those few games with the kids line and throughout that game with the kids line, I think gave him the confidence to hold on to the puck, even with Zibanejad cross ice pretty much wide open in that 3-on-3 overtime. So he held on to the puck, went the full length of the ice in that 2-on-1, and then gave Zibanejad a perfect pass on his tape, which I think should have went in, but Markstrom made an unbelievable save. And then Laffy stuck with it. He had the confidence to go to the net, get that puck, turn around, and get the shot on net instead of, once again, looking up for the guy coming down the slot or look for where Zibanejad was. He just threw that rebound on net, and it paid off for him.
Yeah, I mean, for me, an interesting note about Laffy. So in his junior career, he was billed as a playmaker, and he always was a player that was like 30 goals, 70 assists, or, something like that. So that was his way of producing points. He wasn't like a, 60 goal scorer with 30 assists, right? It was the opposite. He's a playmaking player. And if you look at his numbers in the NHL thus far, he hasn't been that, right? So I look at his stats, forget the, the lack of them. 12 goals, 9 assists, 19 goals, 12 assists his first 2 seasons. This year, only 8 goals, but 18 assists. So he's projecting more points this year, which is an improvement. And his numbers are looking more like the type of player that he is. So it gives me hope that he's figuring it out in the NHL. Maybe some of those goals he was getting were, gritty goals or deflections, rebounds. So he was finding a way to be useful while he figured out the league. Now he's kind of taking the league and making plays. He's making plays. The passes he makes sometimes are, I don't know. On rushes with Seatle. He set up Seatle, I think it was the Vancouver game. The first game that broke Heatle's goal streak. Was that the Vancouver game? Or was it the game after?
I didn't know he was on. I didn't know he was on a streak.
He was on a 5-game goal streak that got snapped against the Kraken. In that game, Laffy set him up it was like a 2-on-2 kind of with this beautiful pass, and Heatle ripped it, and it was a great save. And it's just really noticeable the confidence he's having. Moving on from Laffy, Ryan Lindgren. We don't talk enough about Ryan Lindgren, I think. We do mention him in passing in the Stars of the Week, where he'll sometimes get like a key contributor, and we'll just be like, yeah, we love Lindgren. He's always bleeding. And Ryan Lindgren gets his first goal of the season, a shorthanded empty net goal, and the team just absolutely loved it. And like that is the sign of a player who's a key, important piece of a team, right? I mean, the way the team reacted when he scored that goal, no goals on the year up to that point. I mean, Coach, how much does Ryan Lindgren mean to this team going into the playoffs?
So he's, as far as how much he means, he's definitely underpaid, because you have a guy like that, what he means for Fox's game, what he means for sacrificing his body, getting back in the game constantly, it's priceless. And, I don't think it goes unnoticed by many people at all. Obviously, Sam Rosen and Joe Micheletti go crazy all the time. But
he's also got to be a big locker room guy. I mean, we'll say that again, those intangibles, keeping the glue. He's a glue guy in the locker room, I'm sure. And I think it was VC. I sent you guys like the little interview or something. They said, who's somebody that's like might be quiet, but low key, like really funny. And he said Lindy right away. So he seems shy or quiet in interviews and things like that. But I'm sure when he's out with the boys, he's probably just the best.
Yeah, and I think with Lindgren, we noticed it last year. Remember, against Pittsburgh, Lindgren was out the first few games, and then he came back. We weren't sure if he was going to play. He came back in that series and gritted his way through injuries, and the team just overall defense improved tremendously. Like Coach said, he helps Fox out. There's a lot of chatter, I would say speculation versus chatter, that Lindgren might be a cap casualty. They got to find a way to keep this guy on the team. I mean, they just got to figure it out. He's too important. I know he's not going to have the stats, the goals and assists. I think your Uncle Rob would be proud of me for saying that. He's not going to have those goals and assists, but he's a really, really important player. And he deserves a prime spot on our podcast now and then.
He's a free agent after this year?
No, he's signed another year, $3 million. Mike, what do you think about Lindgren? You're nodding along while we talk about him. So
he's the type of player. Reeves? If I was to compare my roller hockey game to anybody, it would probably be someone like Ryan Lindgren. I mean, he does his job. He just does his job. and he's not about the points. He's not about the goals. He's about doing his job, and you really need players like that on a hockey team to be successful. So kudos to Ryan.
Our only hope is that because he doesn't have the stats, that he won't command that high salary, I guess.
Well, I think there's ways to keep him. Again, he's signed for another season at $3 million, so we can kind of kick the bucket. But there's ways to do it. He reminds me a lot of Dan Girardi, and what the Rangers did with Girardi, they gave him a deal until he was like 28, 29, and then they gave him that ill-advised contract. I have no issue giving Lindgren a contract till he's like 30. And then by then he's probably going to be donezo the way he plays. So
yeah,
maybe that's when you let him walk, But shout out to Lindy for his short-handed empty net goal. We've been getting a lot of those lately. I feel like
short-handed or empty net.
Short-handed empty net goals. Like I feel like when I do the outlines and I remember back, and I'm like, a short-handed empty net goal again. Like I got to mark it twice.
Well, you're allowed to ice it, Joe.
I'm just waiting for Shesterkin to get it. Anyway, so look, the boys are playing well. 5 wins in a row going into tonight's game. They're on the road playing tonight. We're recording this. It's currently 8:50 p.m. So in about an hour, they'll hit the ice in Vancouver. They got a little road trip here in British Columbia. Is that British Columbia? Yeah, it's British Columbia. Edmonton on what's today? Wednesday. Edmonton on Friday and Calgary on Saturday. We got a couple of late starts,
which is in Alberta.
Right, in Alberta. 5 wins in a row, points in their last 7, 12-2-2 in their last 16, and 24-2, not 24-2, 20 wins, 4 losses, and 2 overtime losses in their last 26 games. They're on quite a stretch right now.
That's since the helmet throw?
That is. I don't know if it's since the helmet throw. I just did that
23
myself.
wins since the helmet throw.
Yeah, so they've been on a pretty big heater here. I mean, for all the complaining that Rangers fans do, and they do quite a bit of complaining. Let me tell you, I see it on Twitter. I see it all over the internet, complaining about
including
everything. Well, I complain about isolated things. But really, my complaints, I am part of it. You're not wrong. I am part of it. We complain about these isolated things that are on the fringes of the team, right? We're sitting here like, oh, Kravtsov's not in the lineup. He's like the 13th forward, right? Like Harper sucks. I'm not talking about you, Coach. I'm not talking about you, Coach. I'm talking about Rangers fans generally, not you, Coach. Harper sucks, he's the 6th defenseman, right? Halak, he's the backup goalie. Like, so we're complaining about the fringes of the roster. So now the bigger complaint I'm seeing, first it was the ice time for the kids, which I was a big proponent of, give the kids more ice time. I was complaining about it myself. Now I'm seeing complaints that Tarasenko has only played 26 minutes in the 2 games that he played. Their fans are already complaining that he's only played 26 minutes in these 2 games. So I think this is a great opportunity to introduce a new segment, the Little Ed's Let's Be Real segment. So Little Ed, pretend you're listening to WFAN. Did they even talk about hockey on WFAN anymore? This is you got fan calls in complaining Vladimir Tarasenko has only played 26 minutes in these 2 games. Go ahead.
Yeah, cousin Ed, first time, long time. But I think the main focus on this new segment we got is between whether it's Coach Ed or cousin Ed bantering back and forth, or like we just said, the fans online. I think I'm kind of like the even keel voice that can just calm everybody down, talk everybody off the ledge, talk cousin Ed off the ledge when he's going on his rants during the day, when he needs to get away from work here and there. But I have the time on ice here, and I'm seeing Panarin has had 15 minutes and 31 seconds on against Carolina, and he scored 4 goals. Laffy had 14 minutes and 30 seconds. So right there, the first complaint that you brought up was Laffy's not getting enough ice time. He's not getting the opportunities to score goals. He's not getting this. He's not getting that. Well, right there, he had almost the same amount of ice time as Panarin. Go down the list. Kreider had the most ice time which isn't unlikely because he gets the most power play time, right? And then also we see Trocheck up there at 16 minutes. VC,
and penalty kill time.
And penalty kill time as well. And Zibanejad obviously at 17 minutes. Those are obviously you're going to be your top guys getting the most time. So if you're going to say, hey, take minutes away from those guys, then guys, let's be real. We're not taking minutes away from Zibanejad, Kreider in this instant, Trocheck. He's a main guy on faceoffs, things like that. The main thing I'm trying to say here is there's not enough ice time in a hockey game to give it to everybody. Tarasenko just got on the team. We just talked to Jeff over at Mind Your Pucking Business where he's going to come in. He's going to make his impact. He's not that same player he was 10 years ago. He's still getting used to the Gallant systems. Obviously, it's a much different system, I'm sure, that he was used to in St. Louis for – how long did he play in St. Louis for, Ed?
Oh, God, what, 10 years? I don't know.
At least 10 years, so we'll just go with that. You know, so, and we spoke about this on episode 92. We all thought that he was going to be on that power play one right away. We were wrong. So maybe he needs a little bit more time to learn the power play in that aspect too. And I think
actually, I said there was a chance he wasn't immediately on power play one, and Coach said there's no way.
Saying there's a chance.
I was shocked when I saw that lineup come out. I gotta say.
No, but I think your point is well taken. Like, so Ed, like you're the coach, right? Like fans you got to put this in perspective. Like you're the coach. You got how many forwards on this team that are worthy of being, you know, top 2 or 3 in ice time for the team?
You got to say, yeah,
like
you got to look at it. We have it's a very good problem to have. And I think we'll end on this point here where you look at this time on ice against Carolina and it's very well balanced. And I think that's a very big thing, very important thing. We were talking about it all season is to find that perfect line chemistry where you could trust all 4 lines or at least the top 3 lines, no doubt. I mean, even the 4th line, Lecision had the least amount of ice time. He had 11 minutes and 21 seconds. Goudreau had 13:24. So you're looking at those 4th line minutes, not getting nearly as much as everybody else. But that's what I'm saying is it's just a well balanced across the whole board, and everyone's getting, in my opinion, the ice time that they deserve and what they could do with it at this point in their careers.
Sorry, Coach Ed dropped his phone. I don't know if you saw it. It kind of ruined your whole vibe here.
Well, but if you weren't watching on YouTube, you wouldn't have known it. But
but yeah, so I agree. I think you make good points.
Coach, I mean, we need the other coach's perspective on that.
I mean, 100%. You hit the nail on the head. If everybody's getting quote unquote equal minutes, other than your power play and penalty kill guys, which is why Kreider's getting those minutes, the Zibanejad's definitely getting those minutes. That they're able to roll the lines and they're in playoff mode then, because that's what you're going to need. If they have to rely on the first line and all the first line players are getting 20 minutes. That means you don't have a balanced team, and you could be in a lot of trouble over a long series. So to me, if you don't have to play Tarasenko more than 13 minutes, and you're winning by 4 goals, or you're scoring 4 goals a game, 5, 6, 3, then you're in pretty good shape right now.
Yeah, and I hate to bring it back to the Devils, but earlier this season, everyone made a huge deal that Jack Hughes broke the record for being out on the ice for 6 minutes in a row. Like, why would you want someone out there for why are you looking at that as a good thing?
Yeah, Coach, who was the guy in 94 that Keenan wouldn't let come to the bench? He kept telling him to stay on the ice. Was it Kovalev?
Wasn't it Kovalev?
Yeah, it was Kovalev.
I think it was Kovalev.
Lesson, yeah.
Yeah, because Kovalev like overstayed on a shift, and then he tried to come off after that, and Keenan was like, "Stay out," and he played like a 5-minute shift.
Yeah, he was famous. He was famous for that.
Yeah. You're right. So that's like a punishment to stay out there for 6 minutes.
To me, that just says like the Devils aren't well balanced, like we spoke about also with Jeff earlier, and I don't necessarily look at that as a good thing. I mean, Connor McDavid's not even staying out there for 6 minutes in a row, so that should just say it right there. And he might be hitting 100 points tonight.
100. He's going to hit 150 this year.
Well, I'm saying tonight he might hit 100. I think he's 3 away, and they're playing as we speak.
Yeah, well. He's a crazy good player. But anyway, so that's our Little Ed's Let's Be Real segment. Now let's go over to Coach's Corner with Coach Ed.
All right, boys, bring it in.
All right, Coach. Talk to me about lack of communication on the ice and defensive awareness.
Well, first of all, it's more prevalent amongst these younger players that we talked about in the previous episodes and during the beginning of the season, that they're not learning how to play the game at a lower level. So Rupper had a segment on NHL, which was he showed 3 goals by teams that were defending, one being Calgary, one being Dallas, and one being Florida, who were all fight. Well, not Dallas, but Florida and Calgary are fighting for playoff spots. And you have 3 out of 4 guys puck watching, not covering an open man. And when the rotation went around the net, it was almost the exact same play. All 3 players in front went towards the puck and left the guy wide open for a one-time goal. It was, you watch the highlights, it was amazing. And that all comes down to communication. When you hear the better teams live, they'll be saying, I got this guy, I got that guy, you take the weak side. They got to be communicating out there, and they have to know what's going on. And that's gonna be a big plus in the playoffs if you got that communication down low.
What's the right play though? How are you supposed to defend that?
The right play is either one guy just stays with them, and the other 2 or 3 guys rotate and cover someone else, or all 4 guys you would rotate. The puck would go around the net. The one guy that's in front would go chase him. The one guy that was on the weak side would go to the guy open. But if you see the plays, the guy was just left wide open twice, and the guy with the puck waited. And when they made them, that's the whole point of motion on a power play or any time, is to wait for the D to make a mistake, to leave a guy open. That's how you get the grade A scoring chances. And that's why that guy goes around the net. That's what Gretzky made a living at for a lot of years, setting all kinds of records, going behind the net, making the other team make a play, and then finding the open guy. And it's amazing the amount of times you see that happen. I mean, I scream at kids all the time, and these are NHL players puck watching. It's incredible.
Well, you have to tie it into the current Rangers team. Kakko's been doing very well behind the net, as I always bring up, and he always finds either Laffy or Seatle in the slot. And I mean, I think that's a big thing in all hockey, like you said.
I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but at the NHL level, I feel that it shouldn't happen to the better teams, and it has to be driving Daryl Sutter nuts because they're fighting for points, and so is Florida trying to get in there over the hump. And just to see that happen, I mean, I guess injuries help, injuries don't help, and like that's why I give a lot of credit to Schneider, because you don't see it happening a lot with him, and he's playing with a lot of different partners. And that's the hardest thing when you don't have that, like with Fox without Lindgren, he seemed a little lost for himself. So if a guy like Schneider played with 3 different partners this year and really, to me, hasn't missed a beat defensively, that's pretty good as far as being mentally ready for a game in the situation.
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak from my own personal experience. I mean, without a doubt, having somebody with you that you could feed off of and having a partner you could trust, knowing where they're going to be on the ice, trusting them that they're going to cover that guy in front of the net or in the slot when you're chasing the guy behind the net or battling for the puck in the corner. I mean, that's a huge part of the defensive game. And then you also have to trust your center. I mean, both defensemen have to trust your center. And when you have a guy in front of the net and there's a second guy in front of the net and your partner is in the corner battling for the puck, you have to trust that the center or the off wing is going to be there to help you in front as well.
And let me tell you, you watch the Rangers in these last 24 games, you see Mika covering his man in front of the net. You see Heedle. Heedle's a little off still. Eddie asked me to watch him when we were live. He's a little off. He's still a little distant from that guy open. He's aware he's there. He tends to puck watch and roam a little bit, but he's a lot better than he was. Mika's doing a great job. Kakko and Laffy rotating up top. I'm watching them. They're doing a great job. The team's on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, I think Heedle just is a little bit offensive minded for our taste, whereas he's looking for that fast break. He's looking for that nice breakout out of the zone, which he does a great job at. Don't get me wrong. But in our zone, especially in the playoffs, you have to be much more aware of that. And then to tie in the communication, we said the lack of communication, where that's very important, where you say, you got the guy in front as a defenseman. You say, you got the guy in front to your partner. I got the guy in the corner. Or another, to take it even further, if you're towards the end of the shift or if you're caught in between a change, You have to communicate with that new partner. Hey, I'm exhausted. You chase the guy behind the net. I got the guys in front, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, any kind of communication always in hockey is important, whether it's coming from the goalie, the defenseman, the center, everybody. So,
and a big part of that communication, again, to teach everybody, is when you get back to the bench and a mistake like that happens where they don't get a goal, to talk to each other, not just look at the iPad and watch yourself on video, but to realize what's going on and talk to each other and say, this is what I did. I made a mistake. Next time I'm going to do this. You know, all that little communication off the ice is just as important on the ice.
Without a doubt.
That's a valid point.
Other than that, that's all I got to say on that, Mikey.
I think that just about wraps up Coach's Corner.
I learned something new, though.
Yeah.
So what do we got? So what are we going on to now? I got a chance to listen to the Carolina game. I was up in Maine for the weekend, so we watched on the NHL package. They don't get MSG up there.
Yeah.
So we had the Carolina announcers. You talk about homers. The Rangers are up by 2 goals with 1:50 left, and the announcers just thought that Carolina was winning. They're like, well, they scored 2 goals in a minute with 1:52 left the other night, and the Rangers were just the whole game. Carolina's dominating here. And the Rangers chipped away, got a goal. They tied it. They went ahead, and they just kept going. They gave the Rangers no credit. We were laughing our ass off.
Yeah, well, with that, I think we'll pause for a few minutes, and when we come back, we'll get into broadcast banter.
All right. It's time for the broadcast banter.
It's a power play goal.
Coach, hit me.
God. Just that picture of the two of them like close to each other. So the big news of the season was that they signed Tarasenko.
Traded for him.
Well, they traded for Tarasenko. He's buddies with Panarin. Actually, this is 2 banters in one play.
In one clip.
So you think he'd be ready, like announcing the play that Tarasenko's out there. He totally misses the goal. Doesn't announce anything other than it's in. Oh, Joe, it's magic.
Oh God,
that was a kitchen moment for me. I went into the kitchen to put something in the sink, and I hear him screaming about the goal. I was like, "There's no way Tarasenko scored already." I run out, and it's him. I had to quickly rewind it and watch the whole play develop. But
that happens to me all the time. Every time I go upstairs real quick, the Rangers score. It's frustrating. Or
the other team scores, and I think it's the Rangers because Sam gets all excited.
So before we reconvened, I told you guys that I didn't have any banter, but I actually do. Did you guys see the clip I sent you where they Trocheck interviewed everybody asking them for their Super Bowl picks?
Yeah.
And he asked that, and Laffy's like the Giant. Everybody's picking the Bengals, right? Coach, did you see the video?
No, I did not.
Okay, so he's asking everyone in the locker room. Now, one player picked the Chiefs. The last interview, he's like, I'm here with Keandre Miller and Sam Rosen was in the locker room. So he goes to Keandre. He goes to Keandre, and Keandre's like, oh, the Bengals, whatever. And then he goes to Sam Rosen, and with the most serious face, he goes, Kansas City Chiefs. The only one. So the Rangers tweeted the video out after the Super Bowl and wrote, congrats to Sam, the GOAT.
That's so funny.
Wait, this is before the season?
It was before the Super Bowl, not before the season.
So why
did they pick the Bengals?
It was like before the playoffs.
Oh, before the playoffs.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Good for
so
Sam.
little what you got? Kansas City Chiefs. You got to see it, Coach. You're gonna die.
I got one. Yeah, I got one. It must have been after a play that Fox made with his foot, he kicked a pass to somebody, and Sam goes, "He must have played some soccer when he was young. He's good with the kicking. You need to use all your tools, Joe." And Joe goes, "I just want his brain, Sam. I'll just take his brain.
Oh, God, that's good.
Do they hear themselves?
I
No,
love when they have like I say it all the time, the little like convos or whatever, like the dialogue that they say that the players
banter.
are doing or whatever. Yeah, the banter, exactly. That's
it's
what we
banter.
created this for. Yeah.
It's their banter. It's crazy. So, did you guys also see against the Kraken when Trouba scored on the power play? Trouba mouths,
Yes.
"It's a power play goal," and Sam
Yeah.
goes,
Really?
"He stole my line." Yeah, and Sam
I missed
goes,
that.
"He stole my
I missed that.
Yeah, he definitely
That's
did.
hilarious.
He
Yeah.
looked up at the clock. He looked up at the clock, up at the scoreboard.
That's a great one.
Yeah, and
Wow, because they're coming in with 2 hot ones,
I got
even
him.
though he
Yeah,
didn't
but
have any.
I didn't write them down, but they're in my head.
Yeah, that's
Sometimes the
that was a funny
graphic,
one.
the intro just clicks in your head. It brings it out.
Just brings it all out. All right, let's shift over to our garden adventures. Coach Ed and my brother-in-law Hazen, yes, that's his real name, went to the garden together. So, Coach, tell us about your garden adventure with Hazen, aka Hansel.
So I come to find out Eddie had to do something that night, so we couldn't go. Couldn't get anybody to go to the game on short notice. Your sister couldn't go. She wasn't feeling well, and she had rehearsal. So she goes, Hazen will go. So I get to the game, and he shows up because they had rehearsal till 8, so the game was at 8, blah, blah, blah. He gets there like 8:30, and he goes, I didn't even know. He goes, I didn't even know I was going. After rehearsal, Rihanna told me, you're going to Madison Square Garden. and he goes. So I broke Hansel's virginity. Never been to a Ranger game in Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
Really?
Wow.
That's what he's told me.
Beautiful.
Wow.
He
And you got the
he
win
enjoyed-
for him. An exciting game.
Yeah, we enjoyed it a lot. We were sitting up at the not at our seats. We were sitting actually at the seats that we want to get with the little table.
Mhm.
No one showed up, so I was up there early eating my prime rib sandwich.
Nice.
The line wasn't that
popcorn.
long, so I grabbed
Too
that.
bad we didn't have a food review. Hazen would have had the lights set up, the professional camera,
Yeah.
the whole.
Yeah.
I need 3 cameras. I need this. I need that. So then we're sitting there. I think it was between the second and third. We got a beer. We're sitting down, and all of a sudden, I hear, Coach, what's up? It's Carl.
Carl,
Come on, Carl.
come on, Carl.
So
Yeah,
we
it's
were
funny.
shooting the breeze with Carl. He was all the way from Austin, Texas.
Fans, if you remember, Carl joined us on a previous episode. It's one of Eddie's cousin Ed's buds from college.
Yeah,
And,
so Carl just moves all around the country, and I spoke to him last week. He's finally settling in Austin, Texas for the foreseeable future.
So we're gonna have to have another. What do we call it?
Where in the world is Carl San Diego? But it's dead because now he's in Austin, Texas. So he sends me a picture, Coach, of the Garden Ice. So I'm like, oh, sweet, you're at the game? He's like, yeah. I'm like, my uncle's at the game. He's like, Coach? I was like, yeah. This is via text. I was like, you got to pop by and surprise him. He's going to die.
I couldn't
like,
believe it.
He's like, what section is he in? So I text Eddie. I'm like, what section's your dad in? Hilarious.
So
Yeah, and then
that's
Carl
two-
sent me the picture. So now that we talked about it, I can post it up there on Insta.
Yeah, two games in a row. We had a little surprise visitor. Surprise.
Yeah, so
acquaintance.
there's just a photo taken of Coach Ed with popcorn in his mouth. I don't know what that was. With Hazen and Carl at a Ranger game. Like what? Like
What a combo.
What a combo, exactly. That's so
yeah,
funny.
I don't know who to feel worse for in that situation.
People were lining up to get Hansel's autograph. They thought he was somebody.
With his suede suit on? You said?
He had like this nice little suede jacket on.
Of course,
He's always dressed to the nines at least.
Oh, it's funny. Gotta love Hansel.
That's great.
All right.
Hilarious.
Great game
Anyone
to
else?
be at, though. The Rangers did what they had to do. You know, so Vancouver played hard, but the Rangers took care of business, and that's what they've been doing.
They made me a little nervous, though. I thought they were letting them back in there here and there, you know?
Yeah.
I was worried they weren't going to step on the throat, like we always say.
Yeah, but they've been finishing it up. I mean, Calgary was a tough game. They showed them what to do, and you know, all these teams that are fighting, they're taken care of. Florida, you know, they're doing what they're supposed. Carolina was a big one. Carolina was big.
Yep. That, like I said earlier with Jeff, that cemented the winning streak without a doubt. They had every right to go into that game. I mean, obviously play well, but maybe lose by a goal or overtime or something. But they came in and they took care of business. Then they had a little bit of break after that, right? They had 4 days off, 3 days off.
Yep.
And now they
but so before, this isn't really a garden adventure, but it's kind of like, you know, another the adventures of Eddie and Mike, we'll call it. It used to be the adventures of Eddie and Eddie, but I moved, so it's now the adventures of Eddie and Mike. And you guys happen to run into a hated rival, so tell that story.
Yeah.
I'll let you tell it.
Well, I'll tell it from my perspective first, I guess, and then Mikey can tell from his. So we went out. Mikey and I worked together, our day jobs. Shout out to Americon Testing and Inspections. Our lovely boss, Connie, took us out to Peter Luger's for dinner the other night. And towards the end of the dinner, we're starting to wrap things up, get our check and everything. And I look over and I was like, that guy looks really familiar. Like, was it someone I knew from college? I couldn't figure it out at first. And I was like, I think that's Matt Barzal. And my buddy Harry sitting next to me, big listener too. Shout out to Harry. He goes, "You really think so?" I'm like, dude, I don't know for sure. I had my phone out. I'm looking up like his profile picture. You couldn't tell without a helmet on. He had a different haircut. I was like, I don't know. That's definitely his face, but I can't really tell for sure. So I'm sitting over there like trying to sneak a picture of Barzal, like without anyone noticing. And Mike happened to be right in line with him. So I was like trying to get a picture of Mike. So if I got caught, I would just be like, "Oh yeah, Mike, smile." So so Mike's over there. What were you thinking?
I had no idea what was going on. I was like, why is Eddie taking pictures of me? So I'm like asking him, like, what are you doing?
Were you gnawing on the porterhouse bone yet?
Yeah. No, by that time it was all gone. But I'm like, Eddie, what are you like? I don't get it. What are you doing? Why are you taking pictures of me? And he like whispers across the table. He's like, "That's Matt Barzal."
Yeah. So I sent the pictures over to our friend and me, Shawnee, over at Hockey Night in New York, and he was like, "Oh no, that's definitely him, without a doubt." So yeah, I mean, I didn't go up to him, I didn't interrupt his dinner or anything, but it's always cool just to be in the same atmosphere. I mean, especially at the same restaurant. I mean, worthy of sitting at the same restaurant with an NHLer. But what really gave it away was they were eating like a lot. Like every time I looked over, he like wasn't stop eating or whatever. And then we look over and they're bringing out like a whole nother plate of steak. And that's when Harry was like, "Oh, he's definitely an athlete. I think he's consuming like 9,000 calories." And like they literally just had like plate after plate after plate. So he definitely just got off the ice or something. And they happened to be home the next day. So I did my homework. I was like playing a little detective for a second. I was like, it's got to be him. So yeah, nice little cool little moment.
Boys, not to take off the Barzal thing, but I just saw an update for Vancouver tonight. Making his debut in net is Arturs Seatle. So shutout incoming, or is it worth staying up for this game?
I'm definitely staying up.
Why didn't you go talk to Barzal though? Was he having dinner?
Dude, it's a high-end restaurant on Long Island. I mean, he's in the middle of his dinner. I mean, what am I going to say? Hey, are you Matt Barzal? Like, what am I going to say?
Will you sign my Rangers hat?
Yeah, can you sign my Rangers hat? No, Shawnee made a joke. He's like, "So you got him to come on my show, right?" I was like, "Nah, sorry, man." But yeah, I mean, it's cool. Like I said, I mean, I'm not going to interrupt someone's dinner. I mean, even when I had the privilege of hanging out with Scott Gomez for a while, like it's just a time and place for everything. You're not going to interrupt or go out of your way to ruin somebody's night.
No, I agree. I'm just teasing you.
Hopefully when I'm at that moment, I don't want somebody else ruining my dinner either. No, definitely not. You guys can come up and say something to me if anyone sees me out.
Recognize me.
Yeah. Like Coach Ed, he's been to the Guard. He gets recognized all the time. I go and no one says a word.
Hey, you're Coach Ed's son, right?
Yeah.
Oh, now you sound like Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, my friends want to hang out with you, and I'm your nephew. It's like, oh, Coach is here. Like, let me go see Coach. You're just that cool. What can I say?
Yeah, I'm really cool.
All right, boys, let's bring it into our stars of the week. All right, it's time for stars of the week. We're going to do the 4 games here. So this includes the Calgary game, just reminding everybody. We'll start with our offensive player of the week. We're going to start with our producer, Mikey. I'm going to show you a little love, Mikey. So offensive player of the week, who you got? And I hope you have your board ready, Coach.
So
it's been ready, Ed. It's been ready.
I'm hoping that it's unanimous. I don't think you could pick any other player, but I am going with Artemi Panarin.
Brett it is. Wow, look at little Ed's artistic skills, man. He's got a bread emoji. Coach shows the whole board in the first shot.
I can't do it.
Well, just tell us, Coach. It's okay.
I mean, I got bread. How could you pick anybody else? You look at his stat line. 4 games, 4 goals, 5 assists, +5. That's the equation that it should be equaling. Even Coach, 4 minutes.
He's now for the season +1. He's no longer a minus player after this stretch. So
I mean, he's
+1 now.
The only blemish on that stat line is 5 giveaways, 1 takeaway.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's a stud.
When you're putting up those points, especially against Carolina, that was a big game. That was great.
Yeah, agreed. Across the board, Artemi Panarin, he was the NHL's #1 star of the week. So it makes sense that it would be unanimous. All right, defensive player of the week, Little Ed, our defensive coach here on this podcast. Who you got?
I think a lot of guys could have got this. I think the Rangers defensemen are playing phenomenally. Shout out to Mikkola. I think he had a nice 2 first games with the boys. But I'm going to have to go with Yaroslav Halak the door. I drew a little emoji of a lock there. So yeah, I think we at this point you got to expect Shesterkin to come in and get the wins against Vancouver and against Seattle. But in my opinion, Halak got the 2 difficult games in this stretch. Obviously against Carolina, top of the Metro. But coming off the All-Star break and getting that win against Calgary, I know he let up 5 goals in that win. Calgary's an offensive team. They have a lot of threats, so I'm not really faulting him for that. But he was able to keep the boys in the game enough to get that overtime victory coming off the All-Star break. So I think that was huge.
Yeah, look, Halak has been much more trustworthy. He's on a winning streak. He's playing really well. And, I mean, in these games, the goalies we gave up a lot of goals in these games, so it's hard for me to pick a goalie. So I went a different route, and I'm going to show some love to my boy, the choo-choo train, Jacob Trouba. Obviously, tremendous game against the Flames. Also ends up star of the game against Vancouver with a couple of assists in that game. And, of course, he got a power play goal. So I went with Trouba. I just thought, you look at his numbers, across the stat line, 10 PIMs for 2 fights, +4 points, 13 hits, 8 blocks. I mean, beast mode for Trouba.
Yep.
Coach goes with Trouba and Key. Throwing Key in there too, Coach?
Yeah, have to. Look right on the Trouba in the stat line. You got the hits, 14 hits. He out-hit Trouba according to the stats.
Coach, he had 7 hits against Seattle, Keandre.
He was
7 hits in one game. That's a lot of hits.
He had the 3 assist game.
Yeah.
The night we were there, Black History Night.
#1 star.
I mean, he's lighting it up in that tandem together. I mean, Trouba with the 2 fights, 10 penalty. I mean, they're all over the place. They're dominating out there right now, physically and skating wise.
Yep. Mikey, you went with Trouba also, right?
Yes, I took the Trouba train as well.
Can't argue with that.
Anything you want to add, or did we cover it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll have something to say about it in a little bit.
All right, let's move on to our Key Contributor Award, the Jesper Fast Key Contributor Award. We're out of order on this. It always screws me up. We're going to start with Mikey again. Who's your key contributor?
I went with Mr. Capo Caco.
Capo Caco.
I feel like
Caco.
he just makes the right plays every time. I feel like every time the Rangers get some sort of scoring opportunity or chance, he's some impacted that play in some way. That one play he made behind the net to get the puck to Seatle on that backhand goal he scored was just phenomenal. That's all. I know, Seatle finished it, but for Kakko to get him the puck, was phenomenal. And, we just keep praising him every week. So he definitely deserves an award this week.
Yeah, I love the way Kakko's playing, and he's finally producing. That whole line is. So, can't really argue that. And on that same token, I went with the same line. I went with Alexis Lafreniere, who I think has really upped his game. And, like I said, for me, this award, I look at his stats and I watch him play. He's being dynamic out there and he's hitting. He's got 11 hits in these 4 games. That's a lot, and 8 shots on goal. So if he can be that gritty skill player, that's a huge lift. And it gives a lot of space to Seatle and Kakko to, play with the puck. Little Ed, what about you?
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up earlier when we were talking about Laffy, that he's contributing on the score sheet and making those plays, but he's also playing very well defensively and forechecking hard, like we always talk about, or like I always point out. But I went with Chris Drury as the key contributor, and I drew a picture of an iPhone answering the call from St. Louis. for the big trade with Vladdy and Mikola.
I like that.
So
yeah,
I think Drury's on a roll. Arguably there hasn't really been a bad move by him, other than I guess the Blade trade, but he made up for it, and here we are. In Drew we trust.
Coach brought out his laptop. All right, Coach, who you got?
Trocheck.
Look at the stat line again. Stat line plus 6.
Yeah, I'm going to tell Rob that Coach Ed's looking at the stat line to make decisions.
Well, I'm looking at the stat line, but the eye test is in there as well.
Okay.
Plus 6, 12 hits. He's all over the place. 5 takeaways. I'm sure his face-off percentage is up near like 65, something like that. He's playing well. He's really playing well. He made that beautiful pass to Kreider on that goal. That's the one I remember.
Yeah, that was nice.
Keandre got the assist right up ice. It was bang, bang, and he made the perfect pass. And he could probably get it most weeks, just like Lindgren. But I got to give him a little love. Last week I was on him a little bit for that penalty, but I got to give it to him.
Speaking of pass to Kreider, how about a little love for Kreider with that those backhand passes that he keeps doing on the power play?
Or it could be a highlight play.
Well, let's see if it is. We're going to go to our highlight play of the week. Let's start with Little Ed. What do you got for your highlight?
What do you think my drawing is?
I have no idea what your highlight is, so how am I going to get the drawing?
All right, so my highlight is Tarasenko's goal. So what do you think my drawing is?
A tank.
Yep, the Russian tank.
With the flag? Nice.
Got the Russian flag above it with the tank.
Nice.
I don't think it was necessarily like a nice-looking goal, but I think it was a very important goal. I think him getting that goal quickly, obviously 2.5 minutes into the game or into his tenure with the Rangers, really got the fans into it, solidified him as a quick fan favorite, and it was able to make him feel at home. And he commented on it after the game, like hearing the fans chant his name and get that excited for when he scored. he like just felt at home right away, he said. And I mean, being that he's been wanting out of St. Louis for going on, it feels like 5 years now. He's finally out of St. Louis, and it seems like he's somewhere where he wants to be. So I think that was very important for him, very important for the fans, and obviously very important for the team.
Can't disagree with that, Coach. What about you?
I got
You're struggling over there. A little more. Laffy's OT goal for sure, dude. Big, huge highlight for sure.
I mean, just they showed it in the highlights. They showed it on NHL Network. The burst of speed he took from the other blue line, getting to 2-on-1, and the big key play to it was where most players, including superstars, would have made that pass. The rebound would have been there. They would have just looped away in a 3-on-3 situation.
Yeah.
And he stopped, got it, and like Eddie was saying before, he knew where that goalie was out of position. That's why he didn't even look for a pass. Shot it to the right spot and showed his hockey IQ and his skill.
Yeah, Mikey, what about you? What's your highlight?
My highlight, this is a very offensive-driven league. Everyone loves the goals. I have a football background. I love the hits. I'm going with the choo-choo train hit on Kadri.
That was a good play.
I think I think if Trouba signed up for the NFL, I think he could play linebacker. I don't think anybody hits the way this guy does. I don't think I've seen a hit like that so far this season in the NHL. Fans, if you think that there has been a better hit besides that, please let me know. But that was just phenomenal, unbelievable, clean, and fantastic.
Yep. True.
All right. I agree.
I think Cody agrees. He just looked up and then put his head back down.
This dog just follows me around all day. Now I also took that hit, man. That was a great hit and just really sparked the team again. You know, that physical play come playoff time, that's the Trouba we're going to need. So for me, that was a big moment, exciting moment. All right, so let's move on to everybody's favorite Coach Ed's Copyright Doghouse Award. And this award is sponsored by Suiter's Sweet Treats. Check them out on Etsy. You remember you have to search differently on Etsy. Ed, what is it again? Suiter's
Sweets and More.
Sweets and More on Etsy.
And use promo code EDPOD23 for 10% off and a free doghouse cookie. And you can see the doghouse cookie on YouTube.
Had a couple of those cookies on my little car excursion to Maine. along with the peanut brittle.
And
shout out to Meg. Beautiful job.
Yeah, for sure. And you can check them out on social media at Suiter's Sweet Treats. Okay, so we're going to start with Coach since it's Coach Ed's Doghouse. So last week, Coach Ed put me in the doghouse with Vitaly Crafts. I'm not sure why I was in. Do you remember? I don't even remember.
Because you picked on me.
The outline. No, it was the outline.
The outline.
Screwed up the outline.
Yeah,
you're out. No mistakes on the outline.
Oh, wait. Is this episode 91 I'm looking at? What did we have? Wait. Last week you put me in, right? Am I wrong about this? Ed, you remember that?
I don't think so.
All right.
Yeah, because you're thrown off because we did the emergency episode, so you didn't miss anything.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I'm like, wait a second. I'm looking at something wrong here. All right. So you had me in the doghouse joining Vitaly Kravtsov. So first, am I out of the doghouse?
You're out.
I'm out of the doghouse. Is Kravtsov out?
Kravtsov is not out. He'll be out when they trade him.
Well, he'll be out forcibly.
Well,
anybody else in?
I mean, come on. Kravtsov, he's in that game. He shows zero. Look at his stat line in that game. The only thing he got was a +1 for being on the ice when they scored. No hits, no shots. Come on.
I was thinking that. I think he like just hopped on the ice when they scored too, because I was like, oh, Kravtsov's going to get a plus for that. I think it was like very quick.
All right, so Kravtsov's not out.
Kravtsov's still in.
Yeah.
And anybody else in?
I'm giving. I don't really want to do this because he made a lot of good plays, but I'm going to put 1 foot in for Kreider. I want to see him a little more physical on the forecheck. You know, he talks about a lot in his interviews, like we have to do this, we have to do that. I want to see him doing these things more. I mean, he's in a good position. He had a couple of nice goals. He made that beautiful pass to Mika. But I think, again, in a game against Carolina, in a game against Calgary, he needs to be a little bit more physically present. He kind of goes in. He doesn't finish his check where he could, that I noticed. He tends to grab the guy and twist him. He gets those holding penalties now and then. And he's got to just be a little bit more physical, a little more punishing, especially, again, like we keep talking about. Playoffs are around the corner.
Yeah, yep. I think he's going towards or leaning back towards those inconsistencies that we all hate. So I hope hopefully he can snap out of it.
Well, in fairness to him, he's being juggled around a little bit. 2 different lines, 2 different roles. You know, if he's playing with Trocheck, that line is more of a defensive line, and if he's playing with, you know, Mika, he's got to get in on the forecheck. I don't know. I guess you're right. Either way, we need him forechecking hard, so it doesn't make a difference.
Oh, I just want to see him finish more checks. He's got that strong body, and go back to.
Well, he doesn't hit at all. So
yeah, and he's got that. He doesn't have to kill the guy, but he's got to finish checks on defensemen. He's got to wear him down a little more. It's got to be part of his game. He's big. He's strong. Joe.
All right, Little Ed. Last week, your doghouse was empty. Is anybody in this week?
Yep. Unfortunately, I gotta give it to Kravtsov for requesting the trade, and he gets a crying emoji for crying to his agent and requesting the trade. So there's my board.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the same. I'm putting Kravtsov in my doghouse. You know, I don't have a problem necessarily with him requesting the trade. I understand it as a human. Like I'm not judging him for doing that, but you know, he's really teetering. You know, he came into the season having to prove that he could be a team player. That was a big deal. He was doing it all season. There was no reports of any dissension from him in any way. He was being juggled around. I get his frustration, but you know, he's got to recognize that he's clearly not physically ready to play 82 games. You know, even me, who's defends him on this podcast, has been saying this is a guy who should get 10 games and then go in the weight room for 10 games and then 10 games and then go in the weight. Like he needs to develop. So for him to request a trade, it's a little frustrating. And, you know, I don't see anyone else on the team that deserves to be in the doghouse. So with that being said, you know, his biggest defender on this podcast has put him in the doghouse.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Who leaked out that he asked for a trade?
It was just reported. Elliot Friedman reported it. A few people.
All right, so why couldn't his agent just go to Drury like behind closed doors and say, you know, why don't we move? Why don't we make a move? You know, you're not happy with his play right now. There's no room for him. Can you try to move?
What happened?
I think that's how did Elliot Friedman find that out?
Somebody leaked it to him. He has sources in organizations.
Wow.
So the rumor was from Elliot Friedman, and he didn't definitively say this, but he strongly hinted. The GMs have a group chat on Gmail, like an email account. So they have like all the 32 GMs are on one email chain. And when they offering guys up for they're available, they just reply all and they're like, hey guys, this guy's available. If you're interested, shoot me a text or whatever. So the rumor is that Drury said that about Kravtsov. And then it could have leaked out from any of the 32 teams if that's true, right? It doesn't have to be from the Rangers because once he puts it out,
well, I don't think Drury would
call
say
his connection in. Yeah, but he could call his connection in St. Louis and be like, or Colorado or whatever, and be like, "Yo, what's going on with Kravtsov?" Or maybe he called Friedman and said Kravtsov's available.
He requested the trade.
Yeah, but Drury might have told Sakic on the phone, for example, yeah, his agent is saying he wants to be traded, so you know I'm going to try and make it happen. And then that gets leaked from Sakic to an advisor, and then that gets leaked to Friedman. You know, these guys all know each other, so it didn't come from Drury. That's for sure.
Well, I'm saying like Drury, I understand it didn't come from him, but I don't think he would say that to another GM because that kind of gives the other GM leverage.
Yeah, and it could have been Kravtsov's agent who leaked it to try and push it to happen. That's another strategy. So who knows? But
either way, most likely thing.
Either way, he's in my doghouse for doing that, assuming that's true. Mikey, last week you had Coach Ed's laptop in the doghouse, and he just had his laptop out. And ironically, I wanted to say it then, but we weren't up to that point yet. It has a Coach Ed's doghouse sticker on it. So is Coach Ed's Coach Ed's laptop out of the doghouse?
No, it's still in the doghouse because it has not been replaced, so I cannot take that laptop out until it has been replaced.
And is that okay? Is anybody else joining his laptop in the doghouse?
Yes, somebody will be joining, and I'm going to be the bigger man, and I'm going to put myself in the doghouse for not getting a new laptop for Coach.
Wait a minute. What about what about the 4
Me laptop? Isn't it out? I thought it's out.
Oh, Lord.
Coach is the only one that left it in.
I can't with you guys. Oh, yeah, the 4-on-3 power play is still in the doghouse because we haven't had one. Oh, no, you took it out. Coach, you put it into the curtilage last week.
Oh, yeah.
You said
that's right.
You said it goes out to the front porch until
the curtilage.
Yeah, it's a legal term. Sorry.
So, all right. Mike, hold on. Can we find out who Kravtsov's? I'm interested to hear who Kravtsov's agent is.
Dan Milstein.
I'll get that. There you go.
Who is it?
Dan Milstein. Why?
I'm just curious. I was just wondering if he had a Russian agent.
Well, are you saying that Kravtsov is a Russian agent?
No, I said, did he have a Russian agent?
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Secret agent?
KGB.
Anyway.
Russian get replenished.
Yeah. So, all right, let's move into the Rangers Ed 150 with Mikey Piersack.
Trivia, it's time to throw it over to Mikey P with your Rangers Ed 150, the fastest 150 seconds in the National Hockey Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Rangers Ed 150. Now that we got some games under our belt post All-Star break, it's time to have a look around the league and see where the standings are shaking out as the trade deadline approaches. Out west in the Pacific Division, Vegas has crept back up into that number 1 spot and are 3-0. After returning from the All-Star break. Prior to the break, Vegas was riding a sinking ship, but they finally got some momentum going here now, and with Edmonton, the only team playing like they deserve to be in that number 1 spot, Vegas should be all set for the time being until some of their divisional opponents step up. Speaking of, the other 2 main contenders in this division right now are the Kings and the Kraken in those 2 and 3 spots. Both have been exceptionally mediocre of late, with the Kings 2-1 through their last 3 and the Kraken 1-4 since we last talked on Tuesday. Side note here, Jacob Chychrun has been scratched from the Coyotes lineup for the better part of a week in anticipation of a trade deadline deal, and right now the LA Kings are your number 1 contender, so watch out for a potential move there. In the Central Division, no change here, with Dallas, Winnipeg, Minnesota, and Colorado occupying the 1 through 4 spots, respectively. Dallas had a big divisional win against Minnesota last Wednesday, but since has dropped games to the Lightning and to Boston. While Winnipeg has only played 2 games since the break and has won both, Colorado has dropped 2 to Tampa in the last week, putting them at 2-2 since last Tuesday. Finally, Minnesota has had a tough run through their last 10 at 3-6-1, and they are also 1-4 since the All-Star break. The Wild have had 2 tough games against Colorado and Dallas to finish out this week, so if they're going to right the ship, they're going to have to do it against some pretty stiff competition. Right now in this division, Colorado is sneaking up through the standings. They're currently 1 point out of 3rd place over the Wild with 2 games in hand, so look out for the Avs to move into the top 3 in the coming couple weeks. Back east in the Atlantic Division, the first place Bruins dropped a close one to Washington in their first game back from the break on Saturday after having a week off after the All-Star weekend. But they were able to take out Dallas 3-2 in overtime on Tuesday night to right the ship there. The Leafs and Bolts are still in the 2 and 3 spots, followed by Florida and Buffalo in the 4 and 5. The wild card race between Florida, Buffalo, Washington, and Pittsburgh has heated up significantly, with Florida finally starting to play like the elite team that they are on paper. They had a big win against Boston before the break and then smoked the Bolts 7-1 immediately post All-Star break, while the Sabres are 0-3 since All-Star weekend without Tage Thompson in the lineup. But they do have Anaheim on the schedule for tonight, so they shouldn't have too much trouble righting the ship there. Finally, in the Metro Division, the top 3 teams have remained the same in the Canes, Devils, and Rangers. These 3 have separated themselves from the wild card pack a bit, with the Rangers up 8 points on the 4th place Capitals, who had a big win against Boston on Saturday night. Pittsburgh stumbled a bit heading into the break, but since All-Star weekend, they're 4-1, while the Islanders haven't been overly exceptional since the Horvat deal and the All-Star break, posting a 2-3 record with losses to 3 of the league's worst teams in the Sharks, Canadiens, and Senators, which is not a good look for the team that's looking to sneak into the playoffs. Finally, the Caps leapfrogged Pittsburgh in the wildcard standings on the heels of a big win against Boston on Saturday, as we said, but have since dropped games to the Sharks and the Canes, so the mediocrity continues in the Metro Division. Got some exciting hockey coming up this week, so stay tuned for more updates next week. This has been your 150.
Thanks, Mikey. Mediocrity in the Metro Division. You hear this crap?
Oh my goodness.
Give me a break, dude. The Metro is a beast division. That's insane.
He's just pissed off. He's just pissed off because the Bruins have come down to mediocrity.
Yep. What a mid team.
I mean, the Bruins are still, firmly in first place, but you got Tampa, New Jersey, Carolina. All these teams are. You know what's interesting? He calls it mediocre. The top 7 teams in the NHL, the top 7, right? 3 of them are in the Metropolitan Division. So give me a break, dude. Mediocrity.
Great job, Mikey.
Anyway, so let's shift over into the trivia. I love Mikey, though. I love it, but no. All right, let's go to the trivia, Mike. Go ahead. So what's your little wrinkle here? What do you got for me today?
So this is going to be a 3-point question.
Oh,
all right, I'm looking for 3 names. You get a point per name.
Okay.
Now, I do think that this question is somewhat difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the trivia song twice. I'm going to let it loop twice.
Okay. That's good.
All right. So everyone ready?
Thank you, Mikey.
Yes.
Name the 3 head coaches used by the New York Rangers during the 1986-1987 season.
Good shot.
Oh my God.
86, 87?
3 head coaches in one season, 86 and 87.
I don't even know one.
Nope, I don't.
What the hell was
I mean,
damn, I can't think of one.
I set you up, Coach. I set you up for this one.
I have them in my head. One guy was the guy that wears the warm-up suits. He wore warm-up suits behind the bench. I can't think of his name, I think, but what do we got?
Mine are in the 90s. I wrote
two
names.
I don't have.
These guys are in the 90s, though. I'm wrong.
The other guy I'm thinking is he was the Quebec coach. The Rangers traded a #1 pick to get him. What are their names? What do you got, Mike?
So
who'd you put?
I don't have any. I couldn't think of their names.
Wow. I thought you had 2.
I couldn't think of their names. I know what they did, but I can't think of their names. I'm tired.
So
what's his name?
Ted Sater.
Okay.
Tom Webster. And the last one is Phil Esposito.
Oh, Esposito, yeah.
Was that when Espo was the GM?
You're asking the wrong person.
It had to have been. I mean, he had to just name himself. I was thinking of the time when Sather had to play coach for a little while. not too long ago, probably.
Well, none of those
That was
guys
in
are
the
the guys I was
2000s.
thinking of.
All right, Coach, you were set up to tie me if you got all three of them because I knew zero, but you couldn't think of any. So that's a tough one for you.
I mean, I
But,
remember Ted Sater, but I don't remember the guy Webster at all.
How do you go through 3 head coaches in one season? I feel like that's a big thing. I can't believe you don't remember that.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a strange thing.
It was a tough part of my life.
Oh God. Yeah, I mean, I was just born, so I'm not gonna blame me. But anyway, that'll wrap up this episode, boys. Let's go watch the game. It's starting now. Let's enjoy it. If we don't fall asleep, I'm pretty sure I might not make it through a period, but we'll see what happens. I'm fully prepared for this rookie to shut us out tonight. So just get ready for it. Anyway, good episode, boys. Shout out to our sponsors. Shout out to our fans. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it. Happy to keep putting out content. Oscar at Pro Stitch Hockey, at Oscar's PSH, and Suitors Sweet Treats. Tennessee Meg at Suitors Sweet Treats. Thanks, guys, and thanks to the fans.
And thank you for Jeff from Mind Your Pucking Business for joining us tonight.
Always. Thank you, Jeff, for coming on. Appreciate that. Always I like his insight, and I think he's pretty reasoned guy in his analysis. So I really enjoy his show, and I appreciate him coming on as well.
Never
Boys,
mind that. Thanks, Meg, for the sweet treats.
Without a doubt. That means Coach Ed wants more, Meg.
I think Coach Vitaly Kravtsov may end his Rangers career in the doghouse as you want.
I don't know if
let's see if he makes it to the next episode.
I don't know if Meg makes the sweet treats, but maybe she can make a little licorice hockey sticks.
All right. Now he's making special orders to the sponsors. Yeah. All right, guys.
All right,
love
boys.
you guys.
Have a good night.
Love you guys. Have a good night.
Let's go, Rangers.
Let's go.